We are not involved. We should not give in to coup leaders' narrative which says that France has become our enemy. The problem of Nigerians today is coup leaders who are putting them in danger by giving up the fight against terrorism, by abandoning an economic policy which was good for the country, and who are losing all international funding which was allowing the people to live out of poverty. Our policy is simple. We do not recognize coup leaders. We support the president who has not resigned, and we are committed to standing by his side.
I have a couple of questions which I would like to discuss with you in this video. What drives this military coup that we get to see in Africa continent? And what does it really mean for the foreign policies in Africa continent? Let's get to the bottom line. Seven countries. That is the total numbers of countries that wake up one day in the morning just to find out that their president is no more in power. Instead, the military have took over the country. And all this happened just in 3 years. From 2020 to 2023, we managed to have at least 7 countries which had the military coup. We're talking about Mali, Chad, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Guinea, Niger, and Gabon. Since most of these countries are the French-speaking country, France have a waking up call from the Africans who don't want to see him again in their countries. But that is not all, because the will is standing up against the US. Since China and Russia, they are having a very big impact on African countries as we're talking at the moment. So what does this change mean for Africans, and what relationship will Africans have to have with the West? What note should the US have to take in all this, since right now it is only France who's suffering the consequences of what they have sown? When you look at the situation of these countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan, Gabon, Niger, the question we should ask ourselves as Africans is, what will be the future of the West in the near future to come? What other strategy that the West they will have to apply in the Africa continent in order for them to keep on continue looting Africa? And for how long will the West have to continue resisting against Africans as they are trying to do in Niger and other African countries? Well, there is a serious problem for the West for sure, and I think the West they did not see this coming. However, it was very naive for the West to never see this coming, and for them to continue thinking that the exploitation of Africans' minerals, exploitations of Africans, using Africans as a slave, it was going to continue forever without it stopping, because they never have any idea of what Africans are capable of. And to be quite honest with you, according to me, I believe the West, they're kind of like they're busy kissing their alright, so they never have any idea that Africans they can actually do something like this, because they are busy experiencing African revolution, and yet they are not able to realize it that Africa it is at its own revolutions that is taking place right now. Perhaps they might ask themselves question to just know what kind of revolution that is taking place in Africa right now as we're talking. Well, according to me, I will again say that it is not only revolution. Instead, this is a revelation of Africans, among Africans who have understood that it is about time to do things in a different ways. Among African youth who have understood that their generation is up to do things in the different ways by making things right in the way that's supposed to be done a long time ago.
France will leave. This is our home. They are going to leave whether they want to or not. If they won't leave, we are here. We are going to stay. Even if it's 100 years, we're going to stay here. We are determined, and France will leave.
And that is something that these people they seem to not having a clue on how these things is happening. Africans are now waking up, and they are now realizing that what has been done, it is wrong and wrong and wrong, and they are coming together in their numbers from different platforms of Africa continent, whereby they want to put their ideas together and try to find a way out to stop this. What you are seeing now, it is Africans who have been awakened. They have been informed about what had happened, they have a closure, they have an idea, they've come up with a solution on how to deal with this kind of people and how to address this kind of matters. These Africans, they have realized that the true solution to all Africans' problem, it will come only among Africans and not from anyone else, because each and every time they try to listen to other people, whether it's from the West, whether it is the French, you find out that they've been misled, they've been disinformed, they've been told lies so that they should not come up with a good solution. So in other words, you understand that Africans, they have now understood that they don't want to rely on any head of the state, because this head of the state, most of them, they were used by the French and the West in order for them to convince African people to continue trusting this West with their system, with their mafias. So Africans, they have understood that most of these African leaders, head of the state, they were just puppets, whereby you find out you vote one president and the next things will come and impose you someone else, saying that this is the right president for you, just to find later on that they are at the service of the open master. And that is something that Africans, they have opened their eyes and they realize, like, okay, I think it's about time we should not pay attention to this, our so-called head of the state, and let us try to come up with our own solution on how we can solve our problems among ourselves as Africans. That is how you get to see all this military coup taking now place, all because Africans, they have understood that if we can't do it for ourselves, no one else will come and do it for us. So Africans do not want to let any, whether it is France, whether it is the US, whether it is any Western country, they do not want them to come and tell them again that, no, look, you have to have this kind of president, because they have realized that these are the puppet presidents who don't have anything to say, who don't have the last word to say, because they don't have control of their militaries, they don't have control of their finance, they don't have control of anything to say, because they are imposing them on what to say to the people and what not to say to the people. Because everything they get to do, they tell them what to do, they impose things to them, and that is how Africans, they're like, no, enough, it is enough. Just imagine having that kind of president in your country. In the past, these are the kind of the president that we're having. And this president, since these presidents, they don't have nothing good they can say and the West can agree with them, they have become useless to the West, to the point that they will open their eyes and try to start working for their people. That is when you see them being eliminated. When you see them standing, maybe for an example, trying to come up with their own currency and remove these foreigner currencies, you'll see them, you'll be the main target from the West. So you'll become their main target, because they know they can't live without your mineral resource, and because they know they had put you in that position as a puppet president so that they'll be able to have control over your minerals. And once you try to stand on their way, they'll have to fight with everything. If you try to ask yourself this question to know how possible is it that France is having all the African mineral resource in their reserve bank and they're holding tight positions in the world, but yet they don't have any mining in their countries? How possible did they manage to have all those African resources? France did manage to have all this natural resource. Of course, it is because they have managed to impose their leadership in those African French countries. And that is how they managed to put their hands on those African resources, because France have companies which have the last word to decide the kind of tenders that people need to have. They are the one who have big companies which take all the tenders from the government without even you as the citizen of that country to have your word to say about it. They are the one who get to sign a big contract with the government. They are the one also who have their military base in those countries. That is how it's even helping them to have the courage to come on the TV and say that we are ready to invade, because this is how they've been doing it with so many countries in Africa, whereby they'll come and try to place their military over there pretending to come in a rescue for your people, yet they are there in the mission to make sure that they possess all your saved secrets, information that's supposed not even to be in their hands at the first time. France makes sure that in those countries, the military of those countries should be trained only by France militaries. and not by any other nations of their choices, whether it is Russia or China. They believe that it's only France who have to train the military of those countries. That is not all. They even want the military equipment should be only bought in France, and you can't go and try to buy it to other nations. Come on now, our people don't understand all this. So Africans have understood that it is very important to start changing all those African leaders in those French colonies countries so that they can get rid of France. Africans, they have come to understand that the easy way to get rid of all these people is by starting eliminating them one by one with their system in Africa continent. Africans, they have understood that they are the only solutions to everything that's been going on, and they have understood that the big problem that we've been facing for so many years, it is the West, France, America, British, these countries that are the problems to the Africans, and Africans have understood that if only we can manage to distance ourselves from these people, then that is how we'll start having our true freedom and our true economic freedom. Look, we have a lot of countries which had colonized African countries, right? We believe that we have France, we have British, Belgium, Portugal. There are so many of them. But in our daily time, the one country that has been a big nightmare to African countries, that will be France, because they continue to impose their leadership in Africa even after all these years.
I think that our policy is correct. It is based on the courage of President Bazoum, on the commitment of our diplomats and our ambassador, who will stay despite pressure and despite illegal claims of authority, as well as on the efforts of our internal security forces and of our army. We are not involved. We should not give in to coup leaders' narrative which says that France has become our enemy. The problem of Nigerians today is coup leaders who are putting them in danger by giving up the fight against terrorism, by abandoning an economic policy which was good for the country, and who are losing all international funding which was allowing the people to live out of poverty.
They are having their partners, which is the US, who comes and tell you who's have to be the president in your country, and France have to come also and take all the big tenders from the government. They are the one who have to come and tell you on how to live your life inside your country. So these are the things that Africans, they have come to understand that the really serious problem which has been going on in Africa, and it is about time they start doing things in different ways. Now, let us take the case of Niger for an example. President Bazoum is well loved by everyone. The West love him. The US support him. All these big organizations, they are behind him. With the support of all these people, with the support of all these organizations that I'm talking about, obviously President Bazoum, he had that influence whereby he can talk to his people and they have to listen to him, because the man had all the support from the open IMAS system. But how could it be, how possible was it that all this military coup have to take place with someone such as him? Well, here's one thing we should know, all of us. The truth is that it is normal for someone as a President Bazoum to be loved by this West and France, all of them together. They have to support him. They have to show their support to him, because as I always tell you that this man was at their service, and these people, when they put you in power, they want to make sure that you are there to protect their interest. If you ask yourself a question, why they never get along with someone such as Julius Malema? Because from the moment when Julius Malema became the leader in this Africa continent, he never wanted to guarantee any protections of this open IMAS. And that is the reason why you see they are fighting him by all means. Some of them, they are even declaring him to become their enemy number one.
And today, I publicly declare Julius Malema's EFF to be political enemy number one of the Democratic Alliance.
They are doing all this because they are afraid, knowing that with someone such as Julius Malema, once he becomes a president, obviously they are not going to be able to continue looting Africa as they always do. With a president such as Bazoum, or whether it is Ali Bongo, these people, they were at their service, and that is the reason why you see them supporting them.
Our policy is simple. We do not recognize coup leaders. We support the president, who has not resigned, and we are committed to standing by his side.
And why do they also support them? Another reason is like, look what the mineral of Niger does to France. This uranium is helping France to fight against cold. About 95% of the population of France who have to survive with it. During the winter, children of France, when they go to school, they need the class to be kept home. And how can them do so without the uranium of Niger? So you can tell already that there is some profit, some benefit that France is benefiting from all this, and that is the reason why they have to do everything by all means to make sure that Niger don't get their true freedom that they deserve to be having. When the uranium of Niger keep on developing France, on the other side, Niger is not being developed. For those who visited Niger, they will tell you that Niger is one of the poorest country in the world, number 2 in Africa. People of Niger does not even have a proper electricity that they can light their houses. So now you understand why this West, France particularly, they will have to love someone as President Bazoum, because he was at their service by giving them all these things that they need, and leave people of Niger suffering with a high number of unemployment and poverty taking place all over the country. So removing President Bazoum in power, it was a way of people of Niger sending a loud message to President Emmanuel Macron, saying that how possible is it that you don't have all these minerals that keeps you in power, all these minerals that place you in the world reserve bank, yet you don't have any minerals? How come us people who have the mineral, yet we are suffering, and you with your people, you are the one who get to enjoy the life you live in your dreams house, you drive the cars that you want, you in the road that you guys you build with our own minerals, but yet Africa we still don't have nothing. That was a message which people of Niger decided to send to France and President Emmanuel Macron to come and answer to these questions. So if President Bazoum is being favored by the West and France, well, it is normal, as I just demonstrated to you, but is not being loved by his people in Niger. And the proof to that, that's the reason why they kick him out of the power through military coup, because people of Niger, they have feel that they're tired and they had realized that enough, it is enough. It's about time to start doing things in a different ways. Guys, you need to note something, that this revolution is not only in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, or any other countries that we could not mention here. This is an African revolution which is taking place right now. Africans, they have understood that their children need to go to school. Africans, they have understood that their children need to have food and not going to bed with hunger. Africans, they have understood that need to have also all these beautiful buildings that we get to see in the United States of America or France or British. Africans, they have understood that they need also to start having that true freedom through their economy, and not only someone sitting somewhere in France who had to tell where this tender have to go and who have to sign, or someone who have to come up with a last word. That is what Africans, they have understood, that we have to try everything by all means to make sure that these things have to stop once for all. There is millions of women who are dying each and every day as we're talking right now. Somewhere in Africa, a woman is dying all because they're giving life to someone in a very bad conditions. There is children in Africa who don't even have food, because every time they have to go to bed, they'll go to bed without having food. There is billions of African youth who are still unemployed, all because their government could not be able to provide jobs for them. All because the Western, they are continuing with their agenda to always export the African minerals, yet Africans who are supposed to be benefiting from this, they could not be able to catch up anything. So that era, it is over. Africans have understand exactly how to deal with this kind of people. So Africans are coming together and saying that this is over, enough, it is enough. We need to do something on our own without someone telling us what to do. Now, let us try to challenge ourselves through this analysis and try to see, for an example, let's say maybe someone is sitting somewhere out there in France or America or anywhere else around the world who feel like no, is against Africans cutting their tie with France and the US or any other countries. And they say like, okay, no, look, if you Africans, you try to chase France out of your Africa continent, which means your minerals, they're not going to be able to be developed. Your mineral, they're not going to be done this or that. You're not going to go anywhere because Africans, you don't even have proper manufacture to produce or fabricate all these things that the West, they get to use our mineral for. Well, that is a very interesting question, and we are not saying that the West, they should be cut off like in everything, because remember, Africans never had problem with anyone. Africans, they're just being taken for food. Africans, they've been taken just for a fool. The only sin that Africans have committed, it is to be kind to everyone and wanting to work with everyone. But the only problem that Africans are complaining right now is the kind of relationship that the West have against Africa. It has to come to the end right now, because the treatment that Africans get to receive from all these people is not the same treatment that they get to do within among themselves. For an example, take a look at what is happening in Ukraine. You are seeing for yourself on how all these countries, they went and provided their support to Ukraine in order for them to defeat Russia, isn't it? What about all the conflict that is going in Africa? How many times have you seen them making the same effort when it comes to Africans? So it is better for them to let Africans to fight among themselves and kill one another, but they don't want to do the same among themselves. That is the kind of treatment that Africans don't want. Africans don't want that kind of treatment whereby you come and try to tell them how to do things around. So Africans, they are simply saying that they don't need aids, but they need trades. They need partners who will come with that due respect to treat Africans with that good respect that Africans we deserve to have. Treat us equal. Take for an example Niger. Niger, they are selling their uranium to France for 80 pounds or US dollar per kilogram. Now, the same Western countries, they are coming to buy this uranium to France for 200 pounds or dollar per kilos. So it is very amazing, and it sounds even more crazy to see on how about 95% of the benefit that people of Niger are supposed to be benefiting, it all going to France, who don't even owe these minerals. How possible is that? How can France become a middleman between Niger with other countries who are supposed to come and buy straight to Niger by using 200 pounds or euros or dollars just to make sure that that money goes straight to Niger government? So that is wrong. That is how these people, they are managing to loot Africa in many ways possible as they can. And this is what Africans are saying. No, we don't want this anymore. They have to come through the door. Come and negotiate with the people of Niger straight. Come and negotiate with people of DRC with their coltan. Come and negotiate with South Africa straight with their coal mining, so that if they have to sell it to you, then they will sell it to you to the price that you're supposed to be buying, and everyone is supposed to be buying as well, not you coming to impose your own price. And this is what they've been doing in almost all African countries where there is this different mineral, whether it is petrol, whether it is diamond, whether it is gold, whether it is whatsoever. They are coming to you, they will tell you how much you have to sell these minerals to any other person, and them, they have their own price. And remember, when you sell them to the price of their choices, them, they have the right to go and sell it to the price that they feel like they want to sell it to. So they don't want to treat Africans fairly. They don't want to trade with Africans fairly. Everything, they have to come and cheat on Africans, and that is something that Africans, they don't want, because they don't even want to do things in the same way they are doing with other nations around the world. So here you will understand that yes, indeed, Africa need investment. Africa need to trade with the West. Africa need to do business with everyone. but by one conditions. They have to come in with that respect that Africans need. They have to treat Africans with the same treatment that they are treating their citizens in their countries. They have to understand that Africans' needs are the same as the one of their citizens in their countries. I remember one day I was going through the comment section and I come across this comment, someone saying that no, we keep on talking too much about France and the West, we keep on criticizing them, we keep on asking them to leave Africa, blah blah blah. Okay, fine. And the person, they were like, you forgetting about Russia and China, who their presence are now even more stronger in Africa than ever. That the one who are getting to taking this mineral from Africa and using it, selling it around the world. Don't you fear that Russia and China, they might become even more worse than the West that who've been looting Africa for so many years? Well, let me say something. Look, if that is the case, then I think for the fact that Africans that are standing against this West, whether it's France, British, America, they are busy asking them to leave Africa alone, that should be already a lesson for these other two countries that you are mentioning, whether it is the United Arab, whether it is Russia, whether it is China. All of them, they should consider that as a serious call that they don't have right to mistake. Instead, they have to do things in a good way so that their relationship with African people can even strengthen up. Otherwise, they'll have to find themselves also out. But another truth here is that we can't even compare these countries together. When you take France, you take Russia, you take China, you take America, when you put them together, you can't compare, because when you look what these people they have done in Africa is far better than what the West they have committed in Africa as their crimes. And no one can deny that. Because if you would have to ask a question to know which country did China did colonize in Africa, I don't think there'll be that one country which will come forward and say that us we've been colonized by China or us we've been colonized by Russia. When you look at France, you'll understand that France is a wounded animals against Africans. And right now, he had become even more desperate, and that is the reason why you see them doing crazy things. As I always say time to time, that desperate people always do mistake. Desperate people always do something crazy, which perhaps they might even end up regretting later on. And that is France. So France already is out of the competition because they have done a lot of bad things to Africans, which had pushed or motivate Africans to vomit out France out of all these countries as number one. So there is not even a small chance that we can get to compare these countries. For an example, look, Russia, they came to Africa to liberate or help Africans during the time of apartheid, during the time of colonialism. This Russia, they came to help African countries so that they can get their true freedom. They make their help available to African nations who needed their help during that time. It's not that Russia, they were not able for them to come in Africa and try also to impose their leadership in Africa as we get to see with the West. But they have to do it in a very respectful way. They just wanted to be there for Africans. And that's how we saw them helping people of many different countries in Africa. Now, what about China? China, they have understood the mistake that the US and France, they've been doing in Africa. And they are trying to correct that by doing things in a different ways and start helping Africa to develop. They're the one who get to finance all these big projects that you see in Africa. For an example, when it comes to funding, European countries, they'll talk, they'll give you a very long speech telling you on how they're going to sponsor this, they're going to do this project, they're going to give this amount of money to African countries so that they'll develop this, so that they'll build that and blah. You know, they'll tell you a lot of stories. But to make this word in actions, that is something else that they'll never gonna do, because that is the way of them distracting, which is not the case of China. China, they come and they make sure that they put everything in actions. That is how they manage to build around Africa different manufacturers and different projects that they have engaged themselves through Africa, and they are managing to do this without the help of the West. And that is something that Africans, they are feeling so excited about. Africans are now wanting to work even more with Russia and China, all because they kind of like fulfilling their words or their promises compared to these other countries from the West. They'll come and tell you that we want to build the airport for you, we want to build this, we want to do that. At the end of the day, you're not going to see even a bridge that they had built, because it was just empty promises that they have to put. President Ramaphosa from South Africa even reminded them of this kind of things that they usually do time to time, whereby they'll promise one thing and never realize it.
Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals. Even in the multilateral institutions, we want to be treated as equals. To us, this is very important. Our sovereignty is one of the things that we hold on dearly to. Mr. President Macron wants us to address another issue, which to us is a bit of a negative. You will have heard President Sisi talking about the 100 billion that was promised in Paris. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday as well also spoke about it at the dinner. Now there is that issue that a number of the commitments that have been made have not really been fully lived up to. But there have been times when we felt like we were beggars. I played a key role as chair of the African Union during the COVID period. We felt like we were beggars when it came to vaccine availability, when we felt we needed access to vaccines, and the Northern Hemisphere countries had bought all the vaccines in the world, and they were hogging them. And they didn't want to release them at the time when we needed them most. And we felt like we were begging. And at times it felt like they would just be droppings from the table, that yes, we will give you that and that. And let me tell you something that generated a lot of resentment. We resented that, and it got worse when we said we want to manufacture our own vaccines. And when we went to the WTO, there was a lot of resistance, enormous resistance. And we kept saying, what is more important, life or profits by your big pharmaceutical companies? And that too, I must tell you now, generated and deepened that disappointment and resentment on our part, because we felt like life in the Northern Hemisphere is much more important than life in the global South. And these are issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad that we are all seated here like this, because we've got to get to the heart of these matters and address them.
So guys, as long the West, they don't want to sit down and review their foreign policy, especially when it comes to Africa continent, trust me, things are going to get even more worse for them. They're never gonna have a place to live in Africa, because Africans, they are not going to allow them. As long the US, they are there to get influence in the politics, to meddle in the matters of Africans, whereby they have to come and impose who have to win the election, who have to be the president in all those countries. I believe there is no any Africans who would want to have this kind of people as their partners. Now let us talk about these military leaders who are doing this military coup in their countries. Do you think these militaries can be trusted, these generals? Do you think people can trust them after removing, whether it's the dictators, whether it's a puppet government, whether it is whoever they had to replace? Do you think people of Africa can place their trust in these people? Well, this is very important question that each and every African should pay attention to, because in our previous video, through our analysis, we told you, myself, I said that people of Gabon should not be that excited, should not just celebrate because Ali Bongo is out of power. I had given an example to say that what if people of Gabon, they have removed a lion to replace him with a leopard? because anything it is possible. People of Gabon should try to understand who's the mastermind behind this new general that who just sworn in as a transition president. Because I have the impression that the military coup in Gabon, it is more different to what happened in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali and Guinea. I'll tell you why. Because each and every situation is different. If you take the one for Mali, is different. All this military coup with the circumstance come in a very different ways. And there are those ones who came and just fulfilled their mission and let the power go to the civilians. And there are those ones who came and stick in power, such as in Chad. A person who came as a transitional leader, they end up sticking in power and they don't want to let go of the power anymore. The Gabon military coup, there is some fish going on there because we are having some family business over there where you get to see the man who's supposed to be protecting his cousin brother Ali Bongo is the one who end up turning against his own brother and take over the power. So I can't really say much about the Gabonese who are busy celebrating, saying that they have really get their true freedom. Because we have the wife of Ali Bongo who needed to be looked also more closely, because when these things were happening, she was not next to her husband. Instead, she was somewhere else. We're having the sister of Ali Bongo who's siding up with this general. Now have a look on this general the day went to sworn in as the transition president. He dressed in the colonist suit made by the France. He dressed in the colonist suit and not in any symbol of a people of Gabonese. Instead, he dressed on the suit which was made by France. So you just have to look all these small things and you can tell already who is this general working for. Is he really working for people of Gabon, or is he working for the West and France? So, what is the bottom line from all this? Beside its mineral, Africa has been looted by the West for so many years, and Africa keep remaining poor from time to time. Now that Africa is waking up and Africans start reclaiming what belongs to them, that seems to have a serious problem with the West, because they don't want to let go of the ground that they That seemed to be a serious problem with the West, because they don't want to let go of the ground that always feed them. The debate that Africans are discussing right now is to see on how to move forward and not to go back. Africans are asking themselves serious questions right now on how they can get to develop this beautiful continent called Africa. Africans, they don't want any distractions, since they are trying to liberate themselves from the open IMS system which was being imposed on them for so many years. So with all this being said, it is up to them to decide whether they want to choose the right side to help this African continent to get developed and apply to all the conditions that Africans they are expecting from them, or first the Africans who are so determined to make sure that they wipe out the whole system. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video up to now. It was very important that we get to discuss with you this topic and give you the answer to these questions that we managed to discuss with you through this video. Thank you for those who always watch us time to time. Guys, do us a favor before you leave. Make sure that you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if this is your first time to watch our videos, because we do have serious talk on this channel. And if you don't want to miss any of our videos, you just have to make sure that you hit that subscribe button, so that whenever we upload our videos, whenever we are live, you don't get to miss anything. I want to take also this opportunity to thank all our channel members. Guys, we really do appreciate you with our hands crossed on our chest, because you guys, you are supporting us in everything that we are doing. So we send you much love. Thank you so much for everything you are doing. We really do appreciate that. Guys, that will be all for tonight. Thank you for taking your time to watch this video up to now. I'll see you again very soon in our next video. But for now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon. Ciao, ciao.